So I've done a lot of computer builds and I'm doing a server build. So first off, I want to go through all the parts that I'm going to be putting into it. First, case. It's a brand that I'd never used before, but it's because the case I wanted wouldn't ship to me. Stupid APOs. But it's a Vivo V01. That's this thing right here. So that's what I'm going to be putting in. Then I've got my motherboard. It's the Asus M5A. Look like a good little board for this nice small case. A power supply. I'm going to be running the Thermaltake TR2 500 watts. My RAM is going to be Kingston 8 gigs. Should be a good set of RAM. And I've got an extra 4 gig stick right here that I just had left over from my computer. Processor is going to be the AMD FX 4130. It's a 4-core processor. Had an extra Radeon HD 6870 video card. It's the 1 gig version. Also had that just sitting around, so I'm going to be throwing that in there. And then for the storage, I found these on sale. I've got 2 of them. They're 5 terabyte external hard drives. I'm going to tear the hard drive out and then just use that as an internal hard drive. So that's what I'm going to be using for my computer build. Alright, so the first thing I always do whenever I build a new computer, pull the motherboard out, and then I put the new processor in there. Pretty easy to do. If I can zoom in, you can see a little triangle in that top left corner. You look on your processor, that nice little gold triangle there. Just line them up, set it down, it'll sink down in there real nice and easy. You just lock it into place. So the next thing, you want to get your heatsink on your CPU. So this one comes pre-greased, so it's nice and easy to use. And I like to find where the CPU fan will hook up. Pardon the camera lens there. And I like to put the cord for the CPU fan on the same side. So just set down nice and easy on top of that processor. With AMD it's nice, just lock this right on one side. And you get the other side. It's a lot harder to do with one hand. Here we go. There we go. Got it latched. And you lock it down. And then bring this back over. You can see right there's where the CPU fan will connect. I just like to connect that right away. There we go. Now, one of the easiest and safest ways actually to carry the motherboard is right there. Next comes time to put the motherboard into the case. So I always like to put a little cover for the back part on there, because otherwise I'll always forget. Sometimes it'll clip into place, other times it'll just sit there. There it goes. I like that. And then grab the motherboard. You can see all of those little connections need to line up. But before they can even do that, looks like we need to add a couple more. I don't know if you can see those motherboard stands. Need one there. Looks like we've got one there. We're going to need one more in the bottom left corner. One more right underneath where it says core locker. One more right over here by the power connection. So we'll go ahead, set the board there, and add those. Okay, so now I've got the board in there. Now comes the fun, tedious part of putting screws in all those little screw holes. I've got 8 total, which I'm going to do off camera. Forgot to mention the screw right here with the little ring around it. That's the mounting screw for the motherboard. So make sure when you pull your screws out of your screw pack from your motherboard box, you're using these screws. Next, I'm going to go ahead and seat my video card in there. It's not necessary at this time, but I've got the spot open. So first you find where it's going to line up, and then you come over here and see which of these back panel pieces needs to come out. So I've got this open slot here, which is normally where the video card would seat if you get a dual slot video card, but I've only got a single slot, so I'm going to need to remove that second slot there. Okay, so I got that extra slot popped out. Now, video card lines up with that empty slot. Get it in there. And you should hear it click into place when it's in there. And you should also see right there, this little back part will pop up, locking it in place. And then this, we line back up there. There's a screw that'll go right where my thumb's at, and that'll lock, there we go, right where my thumb's at, and that'll lock it into place. Now, I'm going to seat the RAM. So because I've got two sticks that are the same, I'm going to put those in line with each other, which one will go in slot 4. First you got to open all the slots. RAM is pretty tough to put in wrong, but and this last stick, if anybody does know a better way to put it, just comment or something, but I'm just going to stick this one in slot 3. And even though those are not used, I'll still lock them into place. Okay, so now I'm going to do the incredibly tedious task of connecting the power, not the power supply, but the power button, the reset button from the front of the case, along with all of the components that go on the front. So this is my USB 3 for it, which this motherboard doesn't look like it supports it, so unfortunately this is going to go unused. So we can just set that off to the side. And this, there we go, is our HD audio, which should, you can see down here, these little pins match the actual plug right there, so that's where it'll go. And I've got an actual regular USB. Which you connect that to any of these, and you just make sure you line up the holes with the pins, so there's an empty corner. Line that up right over there. Now, this varies from motherboard to motherboard. That's your reset switch, the hard disk drive LED, power switch, and those will go somewhere usually in this area. If you're not sure where it'll go, your motherboard should come with a manual that'll tell you where to put it. So I'm going to go ahead and stick those on and look at my motherboard manual and make sure I get them right. Alright, so now I've got those connected all up. And while I was off camera, I also took a little extra time and got a little extra better cable management, so you won't be able to see it as easy. I'm not going to be putting in any disk drives to this thing, so I don't need to worry about this space up here That's where I'll hide a lot of the cables. But got my power buttons and all those connected, and there's a little extra speaker for it. So now it's time to give this thing some actual power. So, got my power supply in there. Now all I've got to do is connect these screws. Any of them that have like this little hexagonal type shape on the outside. Those are for outside your case, so you'll need about 4, maybe 5 of these for your power supply. So I'm going to go ahead and put those in, and then I'll show you how to connect everything else. Okay, so that's all tightened in. Now, you need to connect one for there, which pretty easy to tell which cable that is. This nice big one right there. And you also have another one right there, right behind your CPU, which that's just one of these 4-prong, which I don't know if I've got, so I'm going to have to use an adapter. Okay, so taking a look, I bundled up all those extra cables there. Those are all cords that I'm not going to need, so I'm trying to hide them as best as I can up there. And I've got CPU power right here, and then I ran this thick cable down there under the case, brought it back up right around here. So now I've got that connected, so that's going to provide the majority of the power for the system. Then I took an extra one of these, the SATA powers. I only need 2 of them, but this has 3. Ran this down the back, and I've got it here. So when I get my motherboard, my hard drives out of their cases and they stick them in here, they'll have some power. And that's all I've got left to connect is the hard drives, and we'll be ready to power this thing up. So, slight change of plans. Hard drives are no longer going to go here. They are only going to fit up here. Because if you look, I don't know if you can see the video, but there's a fan there, one of the case fans, and because that's there, when I was trying to put the hard drive in there, it was hitting that fan. I'd like to keep that fan in there, so these hard drives now will go here. Which is okay, because then it'll help me keep those cables up a little higher out of reach. And that's really about it. Also thought I'd show the destruction of the external hard drive. This is the first one. So this is how it was initially in there, with the hard drive right here. It was just basically like this. And that was right there. But I kept all the parts, so if I have an extra hard drive that I need to fix externally, I can just throw it in this, and I've got a nice little external hard drive now. Alright, now I've got the last cable to connect. I don't know if you'll be able to see it in the video, but you can see the SATA cables have like a little L shape. So I've got one connected here for the top hard drive, and the other one, this is connected to the SATA 2. It'll be my secondary drive. You just line up the L's, and it's pretty tough doing this with one hand, but there it goes. And with that, all the cables are connected. Now it's just time to put the case back together, put the side panels back on, and then you push the power button and hopefully it works. Okay, so I've got it connected in a temporary position. Moment of truth. We have power. No video. So, recheck the cables. I had to plug the cable into the video card instead of the onboard. And then I also replugged it into the back of the monitor / TV, and we have video. So now it's just time to install. If we look through though, it's looking for the operating system, which there obviously isn't since it's a brand new set of hard drives, but it sees both hard drives and should have our memory. You can see it's got 12 gigs of memory, which is what we installed, and that's everything right there. All right.
You got it, dude.
Stop recording.
You have to press it.
I did press it.